Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Knicks Film School Pregame Show. My name is Andrew Claudio, a.k.a. GMAC. Where am I? Anyway, it is time to preview another Knicks matchup, this time on Saturday night against the Los Angeles Lakers. What else can I say? It's Knicks-Lakers, and for the first time in a long time, maybe ever in my lifetime, it is significantly one direction when it comes to the point spread. The Knicks are 9.5-point favorites. The Knicks come in on a 5-game winning streak at 32-16. And this Lakers team, it's funny, they're 27-19, currently a half game out of the 4 seed in the loaded Western Conference, and yet I have so many questions about how good they actually are. They will not have Anthony Davis tonight. LeBron James is probable, but I think there's more of a chance of me playing than him not in this game tonight. So I could guarantee that you'll see the King at Madison Square Garden on this Saturday. And of course, we're doing our watch party tonight. So please join us at T Squared Social in Midtown. But more on that later. This Lakers team, when you get to the numbers, they're 13th in offensive rating, 21st in defensive rating, 16th in net rating on the season. However, those numbers can be a little deceiving because they started off 13-12, and over their last 21 games since December 15th, they are 14-7. They're 14-7 over their last 21 games, and in that stretch, since that 12-15 date that I point to, 10th in offense, 8th in defense, 11th in net rating. So they are playing a lot better. And I'm curious what they're doing over this stretch where they're playing a lot better. And I'm going to ask my good friend from Lakers Nation joining me, Mr. Trevor Lane from the Front Office Show and of Lakers Nation. Trevor, welcome back to Knicks Film School, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me back. And we're getting an appearance by Stu the Studio Cat.
Hey, what up, Stu?
Blessing us with an appearance here. It's a rarity sometimes for him to pop in, but he's saying good morning as well. Hey, happy to be here and excited for tonight's matchup.
Well, I'm glad you're excited because we're thrilled the way the Knicks are playing right now. But I'm here to talk about the Lakers. I want to know how the vibes are in LA. I want to know this season, this first year of Coach JJ Redick. Mm-hmm. I want to know what may be the last year of LeBron James. Let's start with the vibes. How are the vibes amongst the fan base in Los Angeles through a 27-19 start?
I think it's kind of a frustrated fan base in a way, just especially this time of year with the trade deadline coming up. We all know how important that's going to be, but it's been a lot of 2 steps forward, 2 steps back for the Lakers this season. They'll win a few games, they'll look really good, and then they'll drop some games that they have no business dropping. So this team hasn't been able to find consistency, but when you step back and you look at the big picture, with the group as presently constructed, they're not a championship contender as is. So the goal for this group then is just to stay afloat. Just stay afloat, keep yourself in the mix, and then hopefully find the right moves at the trade deadline in order to put yourself up to that next level. And that's what they've done so far. I mean, definitely they're sitting in the 5 seed right now. I mean, this is a team that has accomplished that mission of keeping themselves afloat, keeping themselves in the mix, finding a rhythm, finding some chemistry, and trying to build something here. And then we'll see what the front office can do just under a week now and counting until the trade deadline.
So, a little behind the scenes, Trevor. My good friend, Alex Rateris of Knicks Fan TV, you spoke to him 2 days ago over at Knicks Fan TV. I listened to that interview yesterday because I wanted to make sure I didn't ask anything you've already been asked. And lo and behold, I think I literally asked the very first question to get the exact same answer. So I apologize that I had to make you say that answer again. But I am curious because Lakers fans, really every fan base complains about something. And look, any first-year head coach that's 27-19 should, quotes on should, have the blessing of the fan base. Like, we're off to a great start. But this is the Lakers, of course. And I'm curious what you've seen differently from JJ Redick that it could potentially be spinned as a positive. Or, I mean, just tell me, what are Lakers fans potentially complaining about when it comes to JJ Redick these days?
So complaining about with JJ Redick, it's really 2 main things, and that's a very switch-heavy defense, often to the detriment of the team, where it's allowing Austin Reeves to get picked on quite a bit, Dalton Connect to get picked on it. There have been games where it's felt like opponents essentially get to just walk down the floor and pick whoever they want to defend their best defensive player. Not a lot of resistance to any kind of, just even switching. At even the hint of a screen coming, they'll immediately switch, and then you've got a bad matchup there. But that's been a much more viable defensive scheme since the arrival of Dorian Finney-Smith. We've seen lineups that they've gone very switch heavy, and it's worked out great. But still, when we do see the constant switching and then a guy like Reeves, and they've done a better job countering the switch hunting a little bit in the last few weeks, but still, fans will get frustrated when they see Reeves or Connect or Rui Hachimura, someone of that nature, get switch hunted. And then in terms of the rotation, right now, he's on a minutes restriction. I don't know if he's playing tonight. He's questionable with Dorian Finney-Smith, but there's been a big push for Dorian Finney-Smith to go into the starting lineup in place of Rui Hachimura, and I see a lot of frustration from Lakers fans every time the starting lineup gets put out, and it's still Rui in the starting five at the 3. So there's a belief that they'll be better off with Dorian Finney-Smith at the starting 5. JJ has not made that move. Some of it might be due to the minutes restriction for DFS right now, but that's the other thing that I see fans complaining about the most.
Back to the defensive scheme for a second. So the Knicks have had trouble this year with switch heavy defenses. They've gotten a little bit better, but they've murdered drop coverage, the 3-point, being 5 out and being able to have your 5 be one of the best stretch 5s in the sport, and just maybe ever has helped do that. But when young athletic teams are able to switch on them, it's giving them some trouble. I'm curious, when it's looked the best, how has it looked for the Lakers, the switch heavy defense? Whether fans are complaining about it or not, 27-19 is a thing. So I'm assuming it's looked the best. So you tell me, how has it looked when it's looked the best?
When it's looked the best, it's been good. There have been moments where opponents, their first, their second, their third read is getting shut down, and then they're getting into their fourth option, and the Lakers are doing a pretty good job contesting. They haven't been, on the course of the season, they haven't been a good rebounding team, so sometimes finishing those possessions with a defensive board has been a little bit of a struggle, but particularly when they get the lineup that features, and again, hopefully he plays tonight, but we'll see, Dorian Finney-Smith and Jared Vanderbilt out there together on the floor. That provides a lot of switchability with those two, just more size out there. They have been doing something recently where when Austin Reeves, particularly when we've seen opponents try to get Austin switched onto their big, so in this case it would be Cat, and the Lakers have been doing a pretty good job scramming Austin Reeves out to a corner and getting like a LeBron or Rui or someone that at least has a little bit of size in their end of the post to try to deal with that matchup. So they've been doing some things to try to counter that, and that has definitely helped. But a lot of it has been when they've got the lineup that is capable of being very switchy, and that's having Dorian Finney-Smith, Vanderbilt, those guys out there on the floor, Max Christie as well, when they get that very defensive heavy group. And we'll see Gabe Vincent, who knows if he's going to play or not. He's been out for a bit now, but he's another key component to that. When they've got their strongest defensive group out and their most versatile group out, not a surprise, but that is what really kind of makes the switch heavy defense work. Whereas when they've got their other guy, when you've got Austin, if you have the Austin, Connect, and Rui lineup, particularly that's on the floor, that's a pretty weak defensive lineup, and that's where it can really get exploited.
Well, it's interesting because you could put that the Austin Rui Connect lineup out there with LeBron in a center, or just I guess a fifth guy out there, and like you could try to keep up scoring with the Knicks. You could try to match them point for point and go a heavy offense, or you could put out that defensive heavy lineup and try to shut the Knicks down and then try to muck the game up a little bit. I mean, I'm curious what you foresee happening tonight. Which direction do you think JJ will go more often than not?
I think a lot of it depends on who's available. I mean, obviously no Anthony Davis. That's a killer right there. But
I think that's more what I'm alluding to. Like, because no AD, what direction do you think JJ will go with his strategy?
So what we've seen quite a bit is with no Anthony Davis, the Lakers' 3-point attempts have gone up, which is not a surprise. And so I would imagine that we do see more of a lean in towards the offensive side of the ball. But a lot of it is really just going to come down to who is actually healthy to play in this game for the Lakers. No Anthony Davis. Gabe Vincent is questionable. He would be critical defending, especially on a guy like Jalen Brunson. Dorian Finney-Smith is questionable. He missed last game with a shoulder injury. Vincent's been out for a while. They don't have Christian Wood. He's not available yet. So Does DFS play? Does Gabe play? If that's the case, then they do have a stronger defensive lineup to even go to. If not, I think they're going to have to just by default because they don't have enough. They don't have enough players left. They're going to have to go to their more offensive heavy lineup. Probably increase their volume from behind the arc and hope to have a hot shooting night, which they certainly can. They can generate those looks from three, and they can do a decent job putting them up. They're an okay 3-point shooting team on the season percentage-wise, but the Knicks give up the highest 3-point percentage in the NBA right now, so they would have to lean in to that. But a lot of it is going to hinge upon two guys who are questionable, Finney Smith and Gabe Vincent.
See, I did know this is the direction this was headed, where I'm confident in the Knicks' ability to outscore the Lakers no matter what, but it just takes like one off shooting night.
Yep.
And the Lakers high variance, like just playing the variance game of we're going to put up 43s tonight with our best offensive lineup. And that's the way the Lakers win the game. The overall stats on the season, to your point, they're around middle of the pack in 3-point percentage, 28th in 3-point attempts per game, but that's not when Anthony Davis is playing. Yep. I want to specifically ask about this 21 game stretch where they're 14-7, because you look at the overall numbers in them, their true shooting went up significantly. They're much more efficient. They're 7th in effective field goal percentage over this stretch. And I mean, obviously as a Knicks fan, I'm not tuning into every Laker game, but what would you say is the biggest difference over these last 20 games? Are they just healthier? Did the schedule get easier? What would you say is the biggest difference?
It has been a little bit of a lighter schedule. You look over the last 15 games, they're right on the cusp of being top 10 in both offensive rating and defensive rating, which is certainly encouraging. But they have had, during that stretch, they had, a game against the Nets. They had 2 games against the Wizards in there. They had a game against the Blazers. They had some more difficult matchups, the Celtics and such. But still, there were 4 of the kind of the weakest teams in the NBA that they did play during that stretch as well. But that is also coincided with the arrival of Finney Smith, the trade of D'Angelo Russell. Not that D'Angelo Russell was necessarily the problem, but I do think that Dorian Finney-Smith has balanced out the roster a bit, particularly given them a bit more on the defensive side of the ball. For the bulk of the season, they've been a little weird in that they had a stretch where they were really good defensively and really bad offensively, and they really, for the bulk of the season, though, it's been the opposite. They've been a pretty good offensive team and an awful defensive. There was a point, at the beginning of the season, for the first, all the way through November, a missed shot by the Lakers that yielded a defensive rebound to your opponent was almost the equivalent of a live ball turnover to most teams, because they could not get back on defense at all to save their lives. They were, just getting beaten down the floor every single time. But they've gotten much better there. Again, part of it is the change that they made in adding Finney Smith, and that's added some more balance to their roster. But they are doing a better job, I think, just in general, finding open shots, particularly corner threes. When we look at Max Christie, his percentages have really come around. So the offensive side of things has continued to hum, despite the fact that you lost a pretty solid initiator in D'Angelo Russell. And then the defensive side of the ball has picked up quite a bit. And you haven't been stuck in as many lineups that are D'Angelo Russell combined with Austin Reeves, which, despite the fact that both guys are talented, it's just an inherently weak defensive backcourt. And that was really getting picked on quite a bit. So now that that's gone, I think they've got a much more balanced team. And that's what we've seen over these last 21 games or so.
So there's 2 reasons why. There's a reason for me to have confidence, and there's a reason for me to be a little worried about this game. Obviously, we talked about the 3-point variance that could exist against the Knicks defense, although they've been a bunch more aggressive over this 5-game winning streak. They forced a lot more turnovers. They're getting out and running a lot more, especially the last 2 games against Denver and against Memphis. They've done that.
And we've got a little news here. I'm sorry.
Oh, breaking news. What happened?
Yeah. So Gabe Vincent, the Lakers just announced Gabe Vincent and Dorian Finney-Smith have been upgraded to probable. So it sounds like they are going to play.
So they're both going to play tonight. I wonder why they would want to play at Madison Square Garden, a building that a lot of people seem to just somehow get upgraded to probable all of a sudden. So it's a good thing we went through.
Everybody comes back to play against the Lakers.
and you know what? You could also relate to, if you're doing the LA back-to-back, the Clippers and then the Lakers.
Oh, yeah.
That for some reason, same building, especially when the Clippers were sharing the building, you're healthy for the Laker game, but for some reason I'm not able to play at the Clipper game. We get the same thing where, oh, I got a game in Brooklyn on Monday. I couldn't make it, but damn it, I'm at that Knicks game on Sunday night. I actually think LeBron and AD did that last year when they came to the Garden on Saturday, and then we're off against the Nets. I'm glad we went through the X's and O's of how the Lakers could win this game. Yep. The other thing, I said it in the intro, we have a watch party tonight in Midtown, and we're on a 3-game losing streak at watch parties. And I was hoping that a game without Anthony Davis would be advantage Knicks, because then people can stop yelling at us for be the reason the Knicks lost. But hopefully the Knicks can just take care of business on the talent side, which brings me to a question about LeBron James. I'd like to talk about him. He plays for the Lakers. And to be clear, LeBron James Sr. I have no questions about the other one. I've only questions about LeBron James Sr. Okay.
Fair.
So he's at 24. His stats are 24, 8, and 9 on the season at 50, 38, 77. But lineup data can be misleading, but then sometimes lineup data can tell you the whole story. And digging into the Lakers lineup data, like you see his on-offs are -7 for the year. And I wanted to go look at that. It's like, oh, they just like really good when he's off, and they're just good when he's on. And they're like a negative when he's on the court, and like a plus, like a decent team when he's off the court. And so, I mean, you tell me, you watch him every night. What to make of LeBron's impact? Is it overstated what he's been defensively this year? Is it an issue that could potentially be detrimental? I'm never going to use that word with LeBron James, but I mean, what's the evaluation you would give him in year 22 at age 40?
He's amazing. I mean,
okay, there you go.
He's amazing. Like, it's insane. The stuff that he does at 40 is nuts. I think the negative lineup data is skewed. And what's happening is the Lakers are often running a second unit. We see it a bit in the second quarter, and they don't have a much of depth on the bench right now. They've got a fairly punchless bench where they don't have a lot of scoring power, especially if Dalton Knecht, who's been kind of hit or miss, as you would expect from a rookie. He's been great, don't get me wrong, but he's not a night in, night out. You just don't know what you're going to get from him on any given night. So they don't have a lot of scoring off the bench. And so what's happening is LeBron's getting into these lineups where he kind of has to be everything, where it's LeBron, it's Jackson Hayes, Dalton Knecht's out on the floor, Gabe Vincent, who can be kind of a secondary creator type guy, but isn't going to go drop 20 on any given night. And so it's LeBron trying to kind of run the whole thing. And so he's out there with a pretty tough lineup. And I believe, and without doing a deep dive into all the exact numbers, but I believe that's actually pulling down his overall impact number. So I think that's more what it is. Defensively, there are nights where he looks 40. There's nights where it looks like he just doesn't quite have it. There's nights where he looks a little worn out, a little run down. We'll see that on the offensive end of the floor. We'll have some sloppy turnovers and things like that. But then we also have games where you just go, man, I mean, he looks like he's 34 or something like that. Definitely not 40. He's flying down the floor. He's throwing down dunks. When he's particularly engaged too, he still can make the big defensive plays. He still can be the lightning quick rotation out to the corner. He just can't do it every single night. That's not where he's at anymore. He can't put the team on his back every single night and just drag them along with them and fly all over the court all game, every game. So you don't really know what you're going to get out of LeBron night in, night out. But when he's on and he's got one of his high energy games, he's still just as good as anybody, which is insane. Like I said, there's moments where you forget that he's 40 years old when you see the things that he's doing out there. And the fact that it's at Madison Square Garden, I have a feeling we're probably going to see a more energized version of LeBron. That's the way that tends to go. But we'll see. Again, you just don't know what performance energy-wise you're going to get out of LeBron. And that's the one thing to watch for, is the team does tend to take on his energy level. So when he is up, everybody else gets up. When he's down energy-wise, and you can see he just doesn't quite have it, you can see kind of a let-up from the rest of the team as well, which is not how it should be. That's not a good trait, but it is something that we've seen from this Lakers team.
Yeah, then yet another reason for the pessimistic Knicks fan to be afraid of tonight's game. Look, as far as the lineup data is concerned, both Tatum and Brown had like really bad on-off numbers last year because the Celtics bench was just blowing out everybody. And look, the Knicks this year, Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart are both at least, I think they're both -7 and -8 on the season, and it's because the Knicks second unit, I mean, first of all, Deuce McBride is able to come in and they're able to take advantage of second units with a much better defensive lineup. But like what Cat's doing against second units and backup centers right now means the Knicks are like +14 when they're playing second unit. So that's where it can be a little deceiving. I want to throw some trivia at you. Speaking of LeBron James, he's in the top 5 for triple doubles this season. Can you name the other 4?
Well, let's see. I mean, it's got to be Jokic.
Number 1.
I mean,
LeBron's number 2. LeBron's number 2.
Okay. Has Luka played enough? Because he would be, but he's not there. Let me. You know what? Russell Westbrook has played enough with the Denver Nuggets. Did he sneak into that top 5?
He is not yet in the top 5. No, he's right there, right below. He's number 7. He's got 3.
I was trying to. I'm a known Russell Westbrook fan. Was trying to give him credit there.
Yes. I'm sure all Lakers Nation it echoes your sentiments. Exactly. Yeah.
Let's go with. What about Sabonis? He's been dropping.
Sabonis is number 3. Good job. Sabonis number 3. So you're missing number 4 and number 5.
4 and 5. Let's see here.
So I'll give you a hint. Number 4 made the All-Star team 2 days ago.
Well, I would assume is SGA getting there?
No, he's not in there. He made the All-Star team and was a number 1 pick a couple years ago.
Wemby. It's got to be Wemby, yeah.
Cade Cunningham. Wemby.
So how am I forgetting? I've been singing Cade's praises for weeks. It's too early. How am I forgetting Cade Cunningham?
Yeah, there you go. And the last one with 6 triple doubles, former Laker, and will be playing against the Lakers tonight. Josh Hart. Yeah. So the LeBron James and Josh Hart, the two of the higher triple double candidates. One of our buddies over at T Squared Social, where we're doing the party tonight, he's just pounced on Josh Hart overs because he plays a lot of minutes and just is a rebound machine. So the little trivia for you. Look, the LeBron James at age 40 curve that I think it's like very easy to grade him on because it's insane to see someone at this age doing what he's doing. I'm actually curious. Have you and any Lakers fans started to think about life after LeBron? Obviously, we're talking about this game. We're talking about this season, but have you thought about is this his last game at MSG? What could the future hold without LeBron? Has that crossed your mind at all?
So it's definitely on top of mind when we're looking at, particularly because we've got the trade deadline coming up, and that's huge. I mean, that's everything, right? So that's going to be the big question: is what are the Lakers willing to surrender asset wise? How much are they willing to give up of their future? Can they find pieces that can be part of their future? Because that is coming sooner rather than later. I don't think this is LeBron's last trip. I buy into the idea that when LeBron has his final season, he's going to want everybody to know it's his final season. I don't think he's going to do the whole, I get to the end of the season and I retire. See you later, everybody. I think everybody's going to know. My prediction, and it's purely a guess here, has been that he does next season and then rides off into the sunset. Now, that said, he's talked about how he could play 5 more years if he wanted to and stuff. And I mean, I don't disagree. Physically, he could still do it. He could still get it done. But we know it's coming to an end sooner rather than later. And the Lakers, as an organization, they're going to have to be prepared for that time. They're going to have to be ready to pivot. They're likely going to be building around Anthony Davis. I suppose it depends on how much longer LeBron does play. But yeah, it's definitely top of mind. What's life going to be like post LeBron? Does that trigger a full rebuild? Is that something where they just, they're looking for a star to put next to AD and try to hit the ground running from there? How do they approach that? And that's obviously going to be critical, not just to what they do a few years from now, but what they do right now to set up for that as well.
Knowing, or really more so projecting that next year could potentially be his last year, how do you think that informs what the Lakers do with the assets they have? Look, they are 4th, or a half game out of 4th, I should say, in the West. I know what's waiting for them at the top of the Western Conference, but do you think they'll be more aggressive knowing their window is a couple years, or they play it a little safer?
No, they better be aggressive. I'll tell you that.
Better be aggressive. Okay, got it.
Yeah, no, I mean they've They're close enough, and I've been talking about this over the last couple of days, but when you look at since they acquired Dorian Finney-Smith, that's gotten them to be a much more balanced team to where, look, if you're top 10 in both offensive rating and defensive rating, you've got a shot. Like, you've got a legit shot. Ideally, you want to be top 5 in one and then top 10 in the other, and you say, okay, that's the bar for being a contender. But if you're top 10 at both, you've got a chance, and they're not far off from that. And yes, they had a few easier matchups during the last 15 games, but they also had some more difficult ones. And so even if it's skewed a little bit, they're still not that far off. So if you've got LeBron, you've got AD, who are arguably two top 15 players, you've got to be willing to make those moves and give them a real chance, because you don't have that much of a future with those guys, especially with LeBron, to sacrifice a season by not making the big moves that they really need to see made. So the key, though, is if they're going to give up their 2 tradable first-round picks, they've got to do it for assets that can be part of that future. You can't go give up those first for, say, like Jimmy Butler, right, or something like that, because he's going to be gone when LeBron's gone too. And then you're looking at really a dark timeline into the future post LeBron. You're looking at not much left in the cupboard there. But if you can get some pieces that have the potential to be with the team into the future and be assets moving forward, that's where it might make sense to give up, the big time and that very valuable future capital in 2029 and 2031.
Last thing for me before we go to the chat. So the expectations are a fickle thing especially when you're a team like the Knicks, a team like the Lakers, and you have LeBron James or AD, or you make the moves the Knicks made before the season. I mean, in your opinion, what does a disappointing end to this season look like for you, for the Lakers?
A truly disappointing end would be, you get bounced in the play-in, something like that. Of course, that would be, I think that's probably the worst case scenario right now for this Lakers group. I think hopefully they're a playoff team and not a play-in team, but falling to the play-in and getting bounced there. I think Lakers fans would be disappointed with anything short of a Western Conference Finals run with the team. And that's not to say, as presently constructed, they're ready to make a Western Conference Finals run. I don't think they are with the team as it currently sits. But fans, the expectations, you've got LeBron, you've got AD, the expectations will always be high. And so if they do anything less than that, I think fans are going to be saying, why didn't we do X, Y, or Z in order to try to get us there and give us a shot at this thing? So I think that's the hope, is that they could make it to the West Finals and then let the chips fall where they may, and see if they can, LeBron and AD have a little bit of magic left in them and go from there. I think that's what fans are going to be hoping for come postseason time.
I got to be honest, that was my assumption going into that question, that it was less about, as currently constructed, how far this team goes. It's that if this is the team that they go into the playoffs with and they're not able to make a significant roster addition in the next week, that there's a what if of maybe you should have. And if this is a first round exit, a second round exit, knowing that we have 1 or 2 years left of this window with LeBron, why didn't you do more? So, I guess we'll see. We'll see. And it starts tonight against the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. We got people watching live in the chat. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me here on this Saturday. Let's start with Dom Cappuccini. Thank you for the super chat. We somewhat answered this question, but I'll ask it again. What is your biggest concern with the Lakers attempting to slow down the Knicks, or are you just hoping they get hot and simply outscore them? The Knicks currently the second best offense in the NBA, and we kind of alluded to it. You assume that they'll just try to outscore them and win the variance game, or will they go to a more now that we know Gabe Vincent and DFS are absolutely playing? Do you think we'll see that more defensive strength lineup?
Yeah. So I think in terms of trying to slow down the Knicks, I think the biggest problem, of course, as the cat makes his appearance, it's Cat. It's Carlos. What do you do? I mean, they've got Jackson Hayes in there. Jackson Hayes is their starting center right now, right? And so we're going to see some smaller lineups too, with Rui Hachimura at the 5. Finney-Smith may play the 5 as well. But what they're going to do to slow him down that'll be interesting to see. And then if you're defending Jalen Brunson with, let's say, Max Christie, that means Austin Reeves is defending who? Mikal Bridges? Is it OG Anunoby? What are you going to do there? Because I think there's defensively he can be exploited on that end. So slowing them down, it's going to be, what do they do in the paint? That's a huge loss to not have Anthony Davis in there. What does that look like for the Lakers? Can Jackson Hayes stay out of foul trouble long enough to stay on the floor? Because after him, it's just guys on two-way contracts. That's it. They're out of bigs. So it's just Christian Coloco, Trey Jemison on two-way contracts that they can throw in there. What does their paint defense look like? And then defending on the perimeter, are the Knicks able to exploit, say, Austin Reeves, Dalton Connect, Rui a little bit, particularly off ball? If you could send Rui through some off ball screens, he tends to get hung up on that situation. As far as getting hot and outscore them, I think it's going to need to be both. I mean, the Knicks are a heavy favorite for a reason, and some of that is certainly the Lakers' health, but some of it is just the Knicks are a great team. They've been really good, especially on the offensive end this season. So I think it's going to require the Lakers' defense really being locked in. They've got to pay attention to the details. The Knicks are a low turnover team, and so you're not going to be given a lot of freebies as they were the other night against the Washington Wizards. Boy, that's an ugly matchup. But
bad. Yeah,
they're so bad, so bad. But
it's like laughably bad. Yeah.
They're the Washington Generals. But anyway, this is something where I think the Lakers defensively, they're going to have to really be on their A game. Their rotations are going to have to be crisp. Their schemes are going to have to be where they need them to be. And then I think you're also going to need a little bit of a heater on the offensive end, which this is why we play the games. That's not out of the question for those things to happen. You never know in today's NBA.
Next one comes from Mike Pat, who is a fan of multiple outlets that Trevor is a part of. So he goes, Front Office Saturday. Love KFS and Front Office Show. Thank you, Mike Pat, for the support, both for Lakers Nation, Knicks Film School, and the Front Office Show. Ben Kim Gervey asks, is Redick a good coach for post-LeBron, overachieving role player, feisty Lakers? Or is he a stars coach?
I think he is more the former than the latter. You see JJ Redick. I think there's two important things with JJ. First of all, JJ is like obsessed, right? I mean, that comes through. He's getting frustrated in a game that they're cruising against the Wizards, right? Like he is constantly just locked in on all of this stuff. I think that's also, and that bodes well for a post LeBron future. The Lakers, they hired JJ specifically believing he was going to be their coach during the remainder of the LeBron era as well as post LeBron. This isn't like when the Lakers hired Byron Scott back in the day to be the coach for the end of Kobe's run, and then post Kobe there was going to be somebody else that was going to come in. They believe JJ is their coach for the future moving forward, and I believe that tenacity that JJ has will serve him well when he is trying to scrap together some lineups and things post LeBron. As far as JJ with the locker room, though, and I think this is the second point that is a good sign for JJ. The team really defends him. And that's something that is in stark contrast to last season. There was a point midway through last season where you could tell that the players were just kind of out on Darvin Ham, and they weren't buying what he was selling anymore. We hear a lot from this Lakers team. Hey, the coaching staff gave us the blueprint. They gave us the answers to the test. We didn't execute it. So very clearly saying it was on us. It wasn't on the coaches. We needed to do a better job here. That's not what we were hearing from these guys last season. So that tells you that they're very much bought in to what it is that JJ is wanting them to do, while understanding that he's a first-time head coach. There's bumps in the road. He's made plenty of mistakes and things of that nature, but that's all to be expected. I think the positive signs are how obsessive he is as a worker, and I think that does show well with the players. And then the players have stayed bought in under JJ Redick, and they clearly support him, and that's an important thing as well.
Yeah, Ben follows up by saying JJ sounds like Tibbs. Every single player that's come through here and that currently plays for the team, there's always this this reputation that Tibbs, I mean, like the minutes thing is more of an outside the Knicks conversation, but like that they're always prepared, that they're the most prepared they've ever been. Isaiah Hartenstein spoke to that last year, that this is the most prepared I've ever been in my career going into every game. And this team just like defends like Josh Hart's been making fun of the minutes police over the last couple weeks because like we got a couple days off, so the minutes police can lay off him for a bit. So it's a positive sign if your players are standing up to you. And look, it's hard not to talk about what JJ's gone through with the fires and what he's gone through in his personal life. So look, as someone who was a fan of his podcast, and I'm recording this in Brooklyn, like a mile away from where he used to live, I'm actually like very much rooting for JJ Redick to have a very successful and long career in the NBA as a
Just
head
not
coach.
tonight, right?
No, I hope he loses by 100 tonight. But outside of tonight, I hope 80-2 every year. That's something you can root for. Next one from Clyde 92. Rumor had the Lakers involved in De'Aaron Fox talks, maybe as a facilitator, as a 5-team deal. That'd be fun. Have you heard any of this? Any thoughts? And what assets do you think that would help the Lakers would use to help facilitate?
So I haven't heard anything specifically about this. I know there've been some rumblings and stuff like that, but so this time of year, I'm not saying anybody is wrong, but this time of year you get a lot of people that suddenly have sources that haven't really, been saying things over the course of the season. That just look, when we talk about demand, there's a high demand for trade rumors and trade news and inside info and all of that. So sometimes the supply rises up to meet that, right? We see this happen every single year. And so far, what we've seen from that has been kind of not necessarily like the primary newsbreakers saying this stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. I don't know. There's a lot of people where I'm like, I don't even know who that person is that's saying, oh, this is happening or this is in the works or these teams are talking or something like that. And sometimes local beat reporters do get inside info. They do get access to stuff like that. But a lot of times if it's a big like 5-team trade, that's going to like Shams is going to be saying that. So I'm taking it all with a grain of salt right now. It's part of why I love this time of year, though. It's all the endless possibilities. It's so much fun figuring out who can trade what, where, and all of that, especially under the new CBA, with that making things so much more complicated. So I'm not saying anybody is wrong or any of this is incorrect, but a lot of it that's out there right now, I would just enjoy the process of the rumor mill and don't buy into like every single thing being 100% accurate, because we do see this every year where stuff gets out that's more smoke than anything else. But that said, if there really is a 5-team De'Aaron Fox deal or something, and it happens, first of all, that'd be awesome. I would love to cover that. That'd be a lot of fun. But the assets to help facilitate, most likely if the Lakers are going to do something on the trade market, it's something involving their future first-round picks, future second-round picks, and then their outgoing salaries. Either Gabe Vincent and or Rui Hachimura would probably be the pieces that they'd be using to move in any kind of a deal. Could they part with Dalton Connect? He's got value, but I know they really don't want to move him. They have a few minor contracts, a few minimum deals and things they could throw into trade, something like that. But most likely it'll be involving some kind of draft capital if the Lakers do get involved in this kind of a deal. But like I said, I haven't seen anything super concrete, but gotta love the rumor mill this time of year, and I hope it's all true, because then we'd have some work to do, that's for sure.
I'm shocked, I tell you, that the host of the Front Office Show loves this time of year and would love to cover that type of deal. Speaking of, before I get to our last two questions, just from a Front Office Show perspective, not your thoughts on like Cat and Mikal Bridges, but were you impressed at the Brock Aller of it all? Like what the Knicks did to facilitate to make sure they stayed a first apron team in both trades, the multiple sign-in trades to make the Cat trade work, the Shake Milton popping out of nowhere to be like, oh yeah, we have him, we'll send him over to Brooklyn so that way there's more money go in a different direction. We're like your perspective just from a front office maneuvering standpoint. How did you view that?
I love that. I love that. And my front office show co-host Kate Smith was very quick to say, the Knicks aren't like, it's not like they invented fire here. They're not the first team to ever do this. Of course not. But still, I was impressed. It was very, very creative. And I think it really kicked off what we're going to need to see under the new collective bargaining agreement, because when you hear a lot of fans want to go, oh, excuses that, that's just, they're just not doing their jobs. When GMs will say, the new CBA makes it difficult to trade. It does. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to do the job and find a way anyway. And as the Knicks showed, you got to get creative to do it. You've got to get creative to get around these new, very, very restrictive rules that teams are trying to play within. And so I think this is going to create teams still have to find a way to put the players on their roster that they need. And so that is going to necessitate them thinking outside the box a little bit. I think the Knicks really showed that that's what this era is going to have to be, if teams are going to get the job done. They're going to have to find ways, do everything they can to get around the, if it means paying a player $1 more than the minimum to check that box, then that's what you're going to have to do. So I loved it from the Knicks. I loved all the cap creativity that they showed there. And I was very quick to sing their praises on that one.
I have to say, no disrespect to friend of the pod, Keith Smith, who obviously we've had here before, but this was the first. No, the Knicks didn't invent electricity here, but this was the first complicated trade under the new CBA that seemed to be more restrictive, and they did 2 of them this offseason. So that's, I think, where we were for 3 years wondering if the Knicks were ever going to make the big move. Like, are they ever going to go all in? And then they did it in the span of 2 months. I spent all summer saying how much I'm going to love the Villanova quartet playing together, and we never saw it because Devo got traded right before training camp. So it's good to get your perspective on that. 2 more before I let you get out of here. Kevin Danishevsky just with a comment. The only reason to root against JJ Redick is to revive his podcast. I think everybody wins in that sense. If it goes poorly and we end up with the pot again, great. I am rooting for him as a head coach because I think he could end up being a good head coach again, except for tonight. And then the last question from Jonathan Macri, who is in the other room over there. Do you see the franchise trying to build around Anthony Davis after LeBron hangs it up? I'm gonna add a second part of this. Do you think AD will want to be here after LeBron hangs it up?
So I think some of that is going to be determined by when does LeBron hang it up, right? Does LeBron play like I'm expecting? Does he play 1 more year after this year and then hang it up? And then we're talking about 32-ish-year-old Anthony Davis. I think that's a different AD than if we're talking about he plays 3 more seasons or something and then hangs it up, and then we're looking at like a 34, 35-year-old Anthony Davis. That's a different thing. Do I want to see them build around AD? Ideally, yes, but part of that is because their future draft capital. I mean, we could say if what I believe is going to happen happens, and that's LeBron retires after next year, could Anthony Davis then say, well, you know what, LeBron's not here, let's really turn the page, send me elsewhere, and then the Lakers can start a rebuilding process and get whatever assets they can for Anthony Davis. But the problem with that is the Utah Jazz have their 2027 first from that Russell Westbrook trade. It's top 4 protected. That would make it tough. And Danny Ainge would love it, I'm sure. But if the Lakers triggered a rebuilding phase right at the year that they don't have their own pick, that's obviously problematic. So I know the team, their plan is to build around AD post LeBron. They want to find pieces that will fit with AD after LeBron is gone. But the question is going to be, when does LeBron walk away? That's going to determine a lot about how feasible it is, because Anthony Davis, he's not 26, he's 31. And so if it's a few more years with LeBron, then it's starting to get a little bit tougher to build around like a 33 or 34-year-old Anthony Davis. But if it's next year, okay, you probably still have a few more pretty good seasons out of Anthony Davis. You could try to add some pieces to really complement him and then see where the chips fall from there.
Well, one thing we do know is that unfortunately Anthony Davis will not play tonight, and tonight will definitely not be LeBron James's last game. We'll see, I guess, what happens if whether or not this is his last game at MSG. As we've talked throughout the day, I agree with you. There's no way LeBron James isn't doing a farewell tour. It just is not like him to go the Tim Duncan route that like sends an email. Yeah, I'm retiring. No, like we're gonna get the full Derek Jeter, Kobe Bryant farewell tour from like the full episode of The Shop where he announces there that he's retiring at the end of the season, and the pomp and circumstance that will follow. And you know what? He's earned it at this point. One of the greatest ever do it. Last question, actually, because I'm not going to ask your age, but I'm 36, and LeBron's the first all-time great that I could say like I was conscious his whole career. Like I got into football around the year Brady got the job, and figures as a former Jets fan, I was responsible. My team was responsible for starting said dynasty. Like, is it surreal that we're at the end stages of a LeBron James? I know you're from a Lakers perspective. There's like a post LeBron conversation to have, but from an NBA perspective, is it surreal that we're coming to an end of his career and his legacy?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So this is And I think that's a big question and maybe a big concern for the NBA. It's what is the post LeBron? It's not even just post LeBron. It's post LeBron, Steph, KD, right?
Yeah.
What does that era look like? Or do you have these new stars built up to a point, or is there going to be a drop off when it comes to attention on the league and everything post LeBron? That's going to be certainly a question. But yeah, I mean, for a guy that we've seen, and we were fortunate enough in LA where we got to see Kobe for the entirety of his career. We got 20 years with Kobe. Now we've got over 20 years here with LeBron, obviously not just in LA, but it's where it's still, and obviously the tragedy that happened with Kobe and all of that, it still feels weird sometimes that Kobe's not out there. Yeah, I think it's going to be the same with LeBron. We're going to be going, oh wait, that the Lakers are playing the Warriors. Wait, what do you mean? There's no Steph and there's no LeBron. That's going to take some getting used to because we've been used to him being there for so long. He's been such an integral part of the league. I think it's going to be like a real transition, and there'll be. I think what's going to be interesting to see is that there's going to be sort of a power vacuum, right? Who steps into that role as kind of the guy in the NBA, the guy in the spotlight. There's certainly players better than LeBron in the league right now, but he still gets so much of that spotlight. Who steps into that moving forward? Is it Wemby? Is it Luka? Is it Giannis? Is it, I know they've been pushing Anthony Edwards quite a bit. What about Jalen Brunson? Where does he fit in all of it, right? So I think it's going to be really interesting to see who steps into that vacuum and how the NBA comes into a post-LeBron era.
Yeah, it's why the Olympics were just so important, and for our generation to see those three guys get a gold, not even just like a gold medal, but like get a run together. And I have no idea how to equate a gold medal to a championship, but as far as I'm concerned, it was really fun to watch those three guys play together as a potential last hurrah of contention. We'll see what happens with the Lakers, again, hovering around the 4 or 5 seed. But yeah, you're right that there will be good basketball after all of these guys are gone. But as far as a face of the league, it'll be curious to see what happens. My prediction before I let you go, and I've been telling people this when I get to it, they're gonna market the hell out of Wemby, and it's gonna work. So Christmas, the Knicks played against the Spurs, and Wemby went off, and it literally looked like an alien invasion for 3.5 quarters. And I did our post game, and I left my family Christmas dinner to go back to it after the show. And I'm explaining what happened to my mother-in-law, who doesn't watch basketball, but knows I do a thing. And I'm explaining Wemby to her, and she was like, what do you mean an alien? What do you mean his arms are long? And I showed her the Andrew Wiggins picture of the preseason where Wiggins is taking the jump shot. The ball's at its apex, and I didn't have Wemby in the photo. And like, this is just like a normal guy shooting a basketball, right? I zoom out and showed her Wemby, and she's like, wait, what? And that casual appeal is going to be able to, like, people are going to tune in to see that, like that thing especially when Wemby ascends to like, I'm ready to take over the league. That's what I think that's my prediction, is that he'll become the next big thing, the big ticket that people will tune into. And I think it'll be successful too. So
yeah, he's incredible. It's insane. You watch his game right now and you're like, there's tweaks coming to this that will make him even more of it. There's times where you're like, oh, Wemby kind of bailed them out by taking a tough jump shot or something there. There's little refinements that you'll see in his game that in the next season or two, once he gets that all figured out, good luck. I mean, I get it why De'Aaron Fox wants to go to the Spurs, right? I'd be thinking the same thing, like, hey, that guy, I want to go play with that guy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that probably will be a big part of the path forward here.
Have you seen the movie Jurassic World, the reboot? So the big HGH dinosaur that they build, that they create, that gets loose. There's that whole plot point of he's seeing his environment and learning where he is in the food chain for the first time. Like, I've used this analogy. That's Wemby right now. Like, he's surveying the environment. He's eventually going to figure out, oh, I'm at the top of the food chain, and it's just over for the rest of us. We got to go find the T-Rex and see if he could help, or like everybody's gonna have to team up to try and beat Wemby at that point. You know?
I love that analogy. That's great. The Indominus gets out and then he's figuring things out. So what is LeBron the T-Rex? Who's the T-Rex right now?
At this point, I'm hoping Jalen Brunson is the T-Rex, and then whatever the shark that swims, the shark dinosaur that spoiler alert for
the Mosasaurus.
You really have seen Jurassic World. I don't know any of
I've
these
seen
names.
it.
Okay. We need to start a movie pod now.
There we
The
go.
detail you had on that, Trevor Lane. Well, unfortunately, our time is up, but thank you so much for joining me to preview this matchup against the New York Knicks tonight. Before you get out of here, all the things you'd like to plug, please let the fine folks at home know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find my Lakers work over at Lakers Nation, most of it on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Lakers Nation. And then over on the Front Office Show, we cover the entire NBA as well as the Basketball Bulletin. We delve a bit more into rumors and things like that. So you guys can find me all those places. Love the NBA, love this time of year. It's a really exciting time. So hopefully everybody checks in.
Thank you, Trevor, for joining me for this edition of the Knicks Film School pregame pod. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in here on a Saturday morning. If you dug it, please head over to iTunes, drop a 5-star rating and a review. I'll be back to preview the matchup against the Houston Rockets on Monday. Stay tuned whether that's going to be a live show or not. Still working out the details. But if you are listening to this or still watching this and you have no plans tonight and you'd like to go to T Squared Social, at least you want to see Knicks Lakers, but you don't want to pay the prices at the Madison Square Garden, come to T Squared Social at 7 East 42nd Street. We got a pregame hangout ahead of time at 7:30. You got a bunch of good giveaways. It's our 1-year anniversary watch party. Our first ever watch party at T Squared was last year when the Knicks played the Los Angeles Lakers at the beginning of February. So we're doing it again and hopefully see as many of you there. But until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the game tonight, and I'll speak with you soon. Peace.